Well, my next question was, where do you want to go? Where do you see, where is your trajectory leading you with respect to this photography?
Well, there's about 10,000 photos that I've taken in the last year. I managed to sneak a few into this exhibit in the beginning of the year, because when I was doing the exhibit, planning for the exhibit last year, the challenge was, what do you use? You've got all these photos. What do you pick out of everything that you've got and say, okay, this is exhibit worthy. This is what I want to put up. And it was a really tough process. I spent weeks, just kind of cycling through photos. What is it you want? And you just really want to put out your best work. And it helped me a great deal, because it helped me in stuff that I'm working with now, in that it makes me to be a more intense editor. Whether I use a couple tools and enhance it a little bit along the way, but basically I don't change very much. I just use a little stuff to make it a little better than it was. It might have been a little darker than in that room than I expected, and, so you make it a little nicer. But you learn how to edit better, and you learn how to make your photos better, and you learn an interesting thing. You don't have to put everything out that you should, because everything's not your best work. So what you want to put out is your best work. You want to put what you see in your eyes as, this is really good. This is the stuff I'm going to look at and go, wow, that's amazing. So that's the stuff that I want to put out. What do I see for myself in the future? I want coffee table work. That's the ultimate goal. I mean, that's kind of one of the ultimate goals. I want to eventually shoot like maybe the North Sea Jazz Festival, or maybe Montreux. That's something to look forward to down the line.
Oh, there are all kinds of questions sprout now. But I want to ask about, you mentioned that you want to put out your best work, but I can also imagine that you want to tell a certain story about jazz, to someone who may not be a jazz aficionado. What is the story that you would want to come across about this music and jazz culture to that person through your work?
I think back to when I started the jazz blog. One of the goals that I had there was that I wanted to put out something that was accessible to people who didn't understand what arpeggios were. Decrescendo, whatever that is. All those magical terms that you read in reviews, and you sit there and go, oh, okay. But I wanted to write something that was accessible to people. I think in photography as well, I want to make it something that is not only accessible to the people, but also really captures that artist. There have been certain artists that I've photographed, not naming, that you have an opportunity to really capture. That's the goal. You really want to capture that moment. You really want to capture the essence of them doing what they do best.
Why'd you name it?
I'm not naming it. So I'm not naming because you have the opportunity to shoot some artist, and it has nothing to do with them. It just more so has to do with the space, the lighting, the place, and all of that. And I think that's one of the challenges, because there's certain venues I can be in, and it has helped me a great deal as a photographer. It challenges you as a photographer, because you're in there and you're trying to shoot this, and it's dark as hell in there, and you're trying to get a good picture out, and you're going, oh, I don't think that's going to be a good one. But there's a photograph in here in the collection that's on the back wall, and it's Marcus Shelby featuring Faith Carroll. And I had just gotten a brand new lens, and taking the lens out, I was like, oh, I'm going to try it out. And I get the pictures home, and I'm like, my gosh, the lens made all the difference in the world because it was a lens that captured, brought more light in. So it just made it that much better.
So seeing as how we're here in the jazz school, I want to ask two questions about jazz generally. Where do you see jazz in the 21st century lives of Generation Y and beyond? What role, what place will jazz have as a music and culture going forward?
I think jazz will always be around. There's no doubt. I mean, it's always going to stay in my house until I expire. But
Not Generation Y.
No, I'm Generation something. But I think when you have places like the jazz school itself, I mean, that gives you hope that music will stay. I mean, when you get those kids back to playing, it gives you hope that music will still continue and it will still continue to prosper. When I see programs like the Young Musicians Program at Berkeley, when I went to a benefit concert, well, actually, I went to the Fillmore Jazz Festival a couple years ago, and I'm hearing all this great music coming from these stages, and the kids couldn't have been any higher than this, and they're just blowing their hearts out, and they're playing just absolutely phenomenal music, and these kids are in elementary school, high school, early high school, and they're just really putting their hearts into it. And seeing that gives you hope. I mean, there's so many great programs out here that are. You've got the Open Jazz Workshop. You've got the Young Musicians Program. You've got other programs out there that are encouraging young people to participate in jazz. And I think through that, and through the young people having an interest in that, I think that's how the music will continue. I say all the time, we've got to take our kids out to, we take our kids every place else. So, I have no kids, but, we take our kids every place else, but we've got to take our kids out to live music. I think that's, just having that exposure. I got my first exposure when I was 18 to a live jazz concert, but I think something else that helped shape me was when I was in high school, I got to see a production of Fats Waller's Hey Mr. Hey, at the Shubert Theater in Chicago, probably like 1980, and I was, younger then, but I was, but it was a great show, and I got the album of that. I still have that album, the Fats album. So I think as long as we have programs, because unfortunately, they're cutting back severely on the arts in our public schools. But I think as long as we have places like the Jazz School and other places that give young people the opportunity to perform jazz and learn about the music, I think that the